Hello, everyone. A very good evening to all of you. I'm Shama Kuriakos, and I welcome you all on behalf of Vidhi Center for Legal Policy to join the premiere of An Unequal Fight, our second film of the series, Quoting the Environment. We thank our guests of honor, Advocate MC Mehta, who'll shortly be joining us, Dr. Narsimha Reddy, Dr. Lubna Sarwat, who are both from Hyderabad. Before we begin this screening, let me just give you a brief introduction about Vidhi Center for Legal Policy, which is an independent policy think tank doing legal research to create better laws and improve governance for the public good. Vidhi engages with public and government institutions in drafting of key legislations and also undertakes independent research in areas like environment, health, education, judicial reforms, gender, and sexuality. The environment team at Vidhi has been working on the implementation of key environmental laws and judgments. Some of our earlier work has included things like implementation of the EIA notification of 2006, the management of the Environment Relief Fund under the Public Liability Insurance Act, the functioning of the National Green Tribunal, to name a few. This project on quoting the environment started last year, and it involved us studying judgments from the Supreme Court as well as picking out select landmark judgments of Supreme Court and NGT to track their implementation. Such a study is the first of its kind, as we attempt to study what happens once a judgment has been given on the ground. As a part of our deliverables, we planned an academic report as well as documentary films on select case studies with accompanying case briefs. The objective for these films has been to convey the ground realities to as wide an audience as possible. And for those specifically interested, we have those case briefs. We went to the field as a part of this project, and we were able to interact with a wide variety of stakeholders involving both people from the government, NGOs, residents, affected villages. And this experience has been both insightful and rewarding for all of us. Coming to this film, which is The Unequal Fight, which is being premiered today, it was shot in November of last year. Now, I'm sure you're all waiting impatiently for this film launch. But before we begin the screening, I would like to invite my colleague and mentor, Dr. Dhwani Mehta, who's one of the co-founders of Vidhi, to talk briefly about the project and the remaining films.
Thank you, Shama, and welcome to everyone who's joined us today. We're very glad you can be here. I'm just going to give you a brief background about why we decided to undertake this project and why we are interested in studying the implementation of environmental laws and judgments. So I think one of the first things we read about as students when we open a textbook on environmental law is the outsized role that the Supreme Court has played in protecting the environment. We know that it's stopped, illegal mining. It's helped in cleaning up the Ganga, in preserving the Taj Mahal, in cleaning up, in stopping pollution from tanneries in Kanpur and in Vellore. But as interesting and intriguing as it was to read about environmental law principles, we were also interested as researchers, as legal researchers, as lawyers, as activists in what happened afterwards. How clean is the Ganga now? Is Delhi's air significantly better? What happened to people who were illegally mining? Were they appropriately punished or not? Is water in Patan Cheru and Bolaram clean to drink and safe to drink now? So what do people think about the Supreme Court's judgments and the impact that this has had on their lives? So we realized as researchers that the law has a life of its own outside the courtroom, and it's important for us to investigate this in a little more detail. So unless we understand what the challenges are to, why laws are not implemented, why people don't observe them, what are the struggles that authorities face in observing and adhering to Supreme Court directions, we will not be able to bring about reform, and we will not be able to design better laws, which is one of the objectives at. So we have to dig a little deeper. We can't just ask what happened when how was the precautionary principle or the polluter pays principle applied in a particular case. We have to ask what the economic effects of the application of that principle were. We have to see, do pollution control boards actually have the capacity to monitor and to implement the directions of the court? Do people actually receive compensation and environmental relief that was ordered? Now, these are sometimes the questions that go unasked, and that is the research gap that we are trying to bridge. And that is the genesis, that is the rationale behind the project that Shama mentioned in her introduction, our academic project on tracking the implementation of environmental judgments, our in-depth case briefs on 5 important landmark cases, and 5 documentaries on these important cases as well. I'll speak a little bit now about why we decided to make documentaries. And we realized that it was important to make our research more accessible to a wider audience. We know scholars and researchers and lawyers and activists have said that a key weakness of our environmental framework is our implementation failure. To change implementation failure, we need more money, we need more people, we need to invest in our monitoring mechanisms, in our pollution control mechanisms. And this investment needs political will, it needs advocacy, it needs grassroots awareness, and all of this will ultimately lead to electoral. This is all finally brought about because of electoral pressure. And so these issues don't become electoral issues until there is a much higher degree of awareness. And that's why we think it's important for us to look beyond our own community of lawyers and policymakers whom we usually communicate with, and to invite other citizens to engage on their own terms with environmental issues. And that's why these documentaries were made as a step in this direction. And we really hope that they resonate with all of you who are watching today, and that you can pass this message along. That's why we're also really privileged to have this set of panelists with us, because they all know what it means to work on the ground and to bring about change, and to bring up, to change people's mindsets, to bring pressure to bear on authorities, and to actually change the way in which laws work. So we're really hoping to learn from them today as well. Before we start the screening of the film, I just wanted to briefly mention the other films in the series. So just before Diwali, we released the first in our documentary series called Hari Fulzhadi, which examined the firecracker ban in Delhi. And the next 3 movies that we can post a link to the movie here. You can watch it on YouTube as well. And please do spread the word. And the other 3 that we will be releasing will be on dams in Uttarakhand, on solid waste management and garbage in Delhi, and the Kaziranga National Park and the issues of wildlife corridors and eco-sensitive zones and their preservation over there. So we hope that you will follow us to get updates on the films. Please follow us on Twitter at Vidhi_India, or please do check out our website, www.vidhilegalpolicy.in, for more updates on the events surrounding these films, as well as the case briefs that will accompany them. So I'm going to stop there now. And Shama, shall we begin the screening of the film?
Yeah, just to add, so the movie will be played now. Anyone who cannot access it through Zoom, the link for the same will be shared later on YouTube. So you can all watch it there as well. So we can start now, Dhwani. Thank you.
Sure.
The Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 was independent India's first dedicated environmental law. It set up India's pollution control boards, which are the backbone of its environmental regulatory architecture today. Nearly 50 years later, this backbone appears to be weakening.
Sorry, there might be a little, give me a moment. I think there might be a little bit of trouble at my end. Just bear with me for a second while I play this.
The Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 was independent India's first dedicated environmental law. It set up India's pollution control boards, which are the backbone of its environmental regulatory architecture today. Nearly 50 years later, this backbone appears to be weakening. Have pollution control boards successfully been able to guarantee the right to clean water to the people of India? In a long-running case involving industrial pollution in the Patancheru-Bolaram belt in Telangana, the Supreme Court of India and later the National Green Tribunal have passed countless directions to clean up sources of water pollution, to ensure the supply of safe drinking water, and to make polluters pay for the damage wreaked on the people's lives and livelihoods. But has the judicial wellspring finally run dry? This film tests the limits of the court's power as it traces the history of the legal battle that has been waged by the residents of Patancheru-Bolaram and the environmental lawyers and activists for their right to clean water.
Hyderabad is a growing metropolis. It is also a hub of bulk drug production, with a pioneering role in terms of making affordable medicine globally accessible. However, it is important to acknowledge that the pharma industry in the city is also one of the state's biggest polluters. The harmful chemical effluents released by these industries have ended up polluting the land, groundwater, surface water sources, such as wells, tanks, and lakes in their vicinity to such a degree that living there has become difficult.
అయితే ఆ కాలం లోపల ఇక్కడ పొటెన్షియల్ లోపల అంతకు మొదలు అందరూ కూడా వ్యవసాయం మీద ఆధారపడి ఉంటుండ్రి. అందరి ఇండ్ల ముంగట క్యాటిల్, తర్వాత బఫెల్లోస్, కౌస్ ఇవన్నీ ఉంటుండే. వాళ్ళ జీవనాధారం సుఖశాంతులతో ఉంటుంది. ఆ వెజిటబుల్ సీట్ అక్కడనే పంట వండి వీటితోటి వాళ్ళ జీవనాధారం ఉంటుంది. కానీ ఎప్పుడైతే 19 వెంగళరావు పీరియడ్ ఇండస్ట్రియల్గా ఎప్పుడైతే డెవలప్ అయిపోయిందో,
a large number of industrial units set up from the 1970s in the industrial development area at Patancheru and Bolaram have directly or indirectly discharged their trade effluents into the rivers and water bodies adjoining these areas. These effluents can travel hundreds of kilometers, polluting all water sources on their path.
అప్పుడు మేము అనుకున్నాం ఏంది ఇది అని మాకు అర్థం కాలేదు. ఎప్పుడైతే 80 తర్వాత దాని కాలుష్య ప్రభావము మనుషుల మీద, ప్రకృతి మీద మొత్తము ఎఫెక్ట్ అయింది. మనుషులకు లేని వ్యాధులు రావడము.
I have seen many malformations. I have seen in one village about 24 young girls could not become mothers. I have seen number of cases, cancer cases. There is a small hamlet with about 15 to 20 houses, wherein I have seen 12 cases of cancer.
गांधीनगर में भी ऐसा नाला में पूरा पानी छोड़ दिया. कौन भी एक आदमी बीड़ी पी के उसमें डाले तो वो फैक्ट्री फायर हो गया.
this pollution is not about affecting the immediate community. This pollution, is about what is called as bioaccumulation. And bioaccumulation implies that there is an uptake of the toxins and the hazardous waste that's dumped in these areas by crops, by fish, by cattle, right? By everything that perhaps is consumed. So in a sense, it comes into milk, right? And milk products. And these products are not really sold only in the local markets. They enter, wherever the market takes them. So they are entering the city, they are entering, the plates of every, elite person, perhaps in the, be it 5-star hotels or, be it the luxury villas. Everywhere the food that is being served, which is brought from these areas, be it fruits or, any other kind of crop that is cultivated in these polluted areas, is extremely dangerous because it's carrying antibiotics, it's carrying all kinds of hazardous and toxic waste.
This widespread contamination led to major public unrest and judicial interventions from the 1980s. In order to address the immense level of degradation undergone in Pattancheru, the Supreme Court ordered compensation and remediation in the 1990s.
We had a people's movement from 84 to 90. And in the meantime, we filed a case, a writ petition was filed in the High Court of Andhra Pradesh. A lawyer written a letter to the High Court of Andhra Pradesh. Then High Court has heard it, some orders were passed. Ultimately, nothing was implemented. Then MC Mehta got introduced. He filed a case, writ petition in the Supreme Court of India in 1990.
National Green Tribunal direction in 2017 was almost a culmination of what started in 1986.
Simulating the Bichri orders, that is, to provide water to the affected villages and to stop discharges, to provide medical help as back as about 30 years back. But nothing has been implemented till today.
ఇక్కడ కూడా కొన్ని భూములు నీళ్లు అవే వస్తుండే కదా
కెమికల్ వస్తాయి
ఇక్కడ భూములో కూడా
మా ఊరికి అంతా దిగినాయి
కెమికల్ నీళ్ళే
కెమికల్ నీళ్ళే దాంట్లో వాటర్ డబ్బాలు పట్టుకొని చూస్తే కెమికల్ నీళ్ళే కానీ
ఇట్లా నిండినట్టు అయింది మొత్తం కెమికల్స్ మాట రాలేదు ఊపిరి సాస సోమలో పిల్లలు తీసుకెళ్తే మా అడ్మిట్ చేసుకుని సీరియస్ అని చెప్పేసారు ఏషోతో పంపించారు ఇదంతా అమౌంట్ నిండిందని ఇక్కడ గొంతుకు ఆపరేషన్ చేసి తీసేసారు ఇప్పటికైనా డాక్టర్ టాబ్లెట్లు అది పెయ్యంతా అది కెమికలే ఉందమ్మా చూసి వాటర్ కొనుక్కొచ్చుకొని తాగాలి వాసనకు ఉండకూడదు.
సో ఓవరాల్ ఇఫ్ యు లుక్ అట్ ఇట్ ఇట్ వాజ్ ఓన్లీ ఎ ఫైట్ at containment rather than solution, comprehensive solution.
Industrial units claim that they have achieved zero liquid discharge. Scientific experts and environmental activists refute this claim.
And from past 20 days, there is a foul smell from the lake, what we see here. Because of this foul smell, small children and old people and young adults, we cannot survive here, we cannot stay here. What is happening here?
Tribunal has ordered to attain zero discharge within 6 months. Now I think 2 years are over. So they have not attained. Still, if you go to the site, you might have seen various areas wherein the leaders are not attained. And they are asked to remediate all the tanks. आज 1990 वो वहाँ से सुप्रीम कोर्ट जो बोली ना, आज तक रेमिडिएट नहीं करे वो लोग.
Supreme Court has given several judgments, including the idea of setting up a health center, having proper, records of the water being collected and, quality of water being monitored. Partially, some of these have been implemented. It's a renovation of the entire lakes. None of it, has actually substantively happened.
One is the zero liquid discharge, which was given as a solution and which was accepted by Supreme Court, had lot of limitations. One is it was a conversion, not a treatment. And second, you are again deal with the solid waste which is left behind. And no one is there to look at the air pollutants which are allowed into the atmosphere. But after 19 years or almost 20 years of that ZLD process, we see that groundwater pollution is continuing. So in Patancheru case, they allowed, even the High Court allowed then to two industries, cellulose industries, to dump their effluents into Kukatpalli main, which joins Hussain Sagar, and then Musi. And for some industries, they were actually permitted to dump effluents directly in the Amberpet treatment plant. So both of them were only relief for the industries, not for the environment or not for the people. Later on, because they knew that this is only temporary, then the idea of common effluent treatment plant came up. The entire principle was unscientific. When you mix different effluents without any primary treatment, no one knows what is the reaction. And this was given as a solution to the Supreme Court as well.
So legal battle has given a lifeline to the polluters than to the people.
Polluter pays principle has, while on paper it is there, in law it is there, but in spirit it has not really been applied in a manner that either that it acts as a deterrent to the polluter, or that it has adequately compensated the victim. None of this has actually happened. And that is the advancement, and we are here talking about 25 years of damage and compensation not being paid. So that's the tragedy of our regulatory process.
ఒక జడ్జి ఏమో కోర్టు అవి ఫ్యాక్టరీ మీద స్టే ఇస్తాడు, క్లోజర్ రన్ ఇస్తాడు. మళ్ళీ తెల్లారే ఇంకో జడ్జి దానికి ఓపెన్ గురించి ఇస్తాడు. ఏం చేయాలి?
So what I mean to say, the legal battle is an unequal fight between the petitioner and the powerful industrialists.
On the one hand, remediation efforts are far from effective, and on the other hand, victims from this region have suffered, waiting endlessly for just compensation.
కంపెనీ టికెట్ కూడా మాకు పోరలు ఒక వైసెస్ పోరలు వాళ్ళ ఇష్టమే, వాళ్ళకి మన ఇయ్యాల డ్యూటీ లేదు, ఏం లేదు, గోధుమ పోయినట్టు పోయి వచ్చింది. ఇక అలా మాకు ఏం తెలియదు. ఇక కంపెనీ వాళ్ళు ఏమో సాదా ఇయ్యాలి మాకు, ఏది లేదు. తెలిసినట్టు నేర్చుంటే మా నీళ్ళకి ఏమో ఎక్కడ మాకు ఏం చెప్పింది ఇక్కడ చేస్తుంది.
పీక్ పాడేసిన వాటి గడ్డకు లేవు, పడావున్నాయి. మా పరిస్థితి భూమి పడావే ఉంది. ఇక అంతా ఎక్కడ పోయినా కెమికలే, ఏ గుంతల పోయినా కెమికలే, ఏ జాగలో పోయినా కెమికలే. నాకు ఎక్కడ తాగదామన్న గొర్రెలకు నీళ్ళు లేవు. బర్రెలు రాసిపోతే గొర్రెలు రాసిపోతే ఇప్పుడు మొత్తం 400 ఉండే జీవం. నాకు 400లా ఇప్పుడు ఎంత ఉందంటే నాకు 100 జీవం ఉన్నది. ఆ 100 జీవం కూడా బాగాలేదు. ఈ 40 ఏళ్ళకపోతే నష్టపరిహారం ఇవ్వమంటే ఇయ్యరు వాళ్ళు. ఇయ్యరు. భూమి ఖరాబ్ అయింది ఇస్తామని చెప్పారు కంపెనీ వాళ్ళు, కానీ అది ఇచ్చడమే లేదు.
ఆరో ప్లాంట్ వలన ఏదో తాగడానికి మాత్రం నీళ్ళు వస్తున్నాయి. కడుక్కోవడానికైనా పిండుకోవడానికైనా ఏం చేసుకోవాలన్నా కూడా ఏంది ప్రాబ్లం అని చెప్పేసి మేము కనీసం ఇక్కడ చూపించుకుందామంటే హెల్త్ క్యాంప్ లేదు. హెల్త్ క్యాంప్ లేనప్పుడు గవర్నమెంట్ హాస్పిటల్ లేదు. గవర్నమెంట్ లేనప్పుడు ఇక్కడ ఈఎస్ఐ ఉంది. ఈఎస్ఐకి మాకు సర్వత లేదు. మాకు ప్రైవేట్ హాస్పిటల్కి వెళ్తే పోయి ఓన్లీ చెక్ చేసినందుకు 5,000 రూపాయల నుంచి 10,000 వరకు ట్రీట్మెంట్ నడుస్తుంది. ఆ ట్రీట్మెంట్ పెట్టుకోవాలంటే మొత్తం డబ్బు లేని పరిస్థితి. మా పంట పండించుకుందామంటే పంట లేదు. ఎక్కడ బోర్ వేసుకుందామంటే నీళ్ళు పడాయి. ఎట్టు పోయినా అంత విచ్చలవిడి పరిస్థితి.
When we filed that case in 1990, the big victory at that time was Supreme Court ordering 32.26 crores of compensation.
When people came together in the case of Patancheru, and when they saw that they were getting a lot of orders from High Court and Supreme Court in their favor, they thought they won the battle.
NGT judgment, we find a expert committee in the same area in Jahirabad and Piramal company case. They again ordered 1,000 rupees per acre, which looks ridiculously low because now you take any crop, average is per acre cost, any crop is at least 1 lakh rupees per acre. So again the polluter liability principle was not applied completely.
The government should have been honest and implemented. But governments are simply towing the corporates.
The PCB is not doing its job, and that's let's be very blunt about it. And because of the failure of an institution which has to come to the rescue of the citizens, given the fact that environmental impact assessments are very expensive. So to actually identify what are the chemicals or heavy metals and so on, and then to establish their quantity is a hugely expensive affair, and that's where organizations like the PCB have to be continuously keeping a tab on the quality of water, soil, air, and then supplying the community with information.
I feel very sorry that the Supreme Court and the NGT, which has passed so many orders, they did not bother to create a mechanism. They should have created a body to ensure the compliance of their own orders.
Which means that trust factor has gone even on the committees and the members who are coming as part of these committees.
The committee which was set up by the appellate court, the chairperson of which was former advisor to the Bulk Drug Manufacturers Association. Now, what is the credibility of that kind of a committee? So therefore, this is a clear conflict of interest, and one doesn't know how credible those kinds of reports have been.
This whole situation as on to the present situation is, it's the government's horseshoe policy. किसी horseshoe मिल गया और घोड़े को ढूंढने गए, ऐसे हो रहा है. इंडस्ट्री आ गया, फिर 15 साल तक आप इंडस्ट्रियल वेस्ट डिस्पोजल सिस्टम प्लान ही नहीं करे.
That public stamina is limited.
So I started young and I'm becoming old, but the pollution continues.
Still, hazardous waste, toxic waste still gets dumped outside the premises of the industry. It reaches the lakes, it percolates into the groundwater. It is causing serious health disorders. So 2.5 decades is quite a significant time, and if courts have not been effective, then one has to really, it's for the courts to protect their own, dignity and respect. Community has always been looking towards the courts for some, justice and some sense of, relief.
People have changed their mindset and are moving away from their birthland, knowing very well that they have no future here.
और एक हमारा तालाब का पीछे जमीन हो 100 एकड़ जमीन है, उसमें किसका भी गांव वाले को जमीन ही नहीं है, बेच के बाहर चले जा रहा.
ये गांव में पूरा इतना आदमी की बहुत तकलीफ है, बोलते बहुत तकलीफ है. 50 साल होने के बाद जिंदा बनने तो बहुत तकलीफ है, मरने का है मगर जिंदा तो बेस्ट है. अभी हम लोग का सूरत, हमारा सूरत 40 साल है, अभी मेरा सूरत देखो कैसे हो गए, हमारा बच्चे लोग कैसे होना, उन लोग कैसे जिंदा बोलो तो बहुत मुश्किल है. ये गांव में रहना बोलो तो भी बहुत मुश्किल है. हमारा भी नहीं, और लेडीज लोग भी गर्भाशंची रहता ना, वो भी निकल जा रहा है.
ఈ కాలుష్యం గురించి మొట్టమొదలు పెద్ద ఉద్యమాలు చేసినాము. పెద్ద ఊరేగింపులు, కలెక్టర్కు రిప్రజెంటేషన్లు, తర్వాత గవర్నర్కు రిప్రజెంటేషన్లు, స్పీకర్కు రిప్రజెంటేషన్లు, ఇవన్నీ చేసినాం. తర్వాత హైకోర్టుకు రిప్రజెంటేషన్లు చేసినాము, ఎన్ని చేసినాము. తర్వాత సుప్రీంకోర్టులో పిటిషన్ పెట్టినాము, చెన్నై కోర్టులో పిటిషన్ పెట్టినాము. ఎక్కడ కూడా మాకు న్యాయం జరగలేదు. ఒక స్పారోస్, కాకులు గ్రహించినాయి ఈ ప్రాంతము నివాసయోగ్యం కాదు అని చెప్పి అవి వెళ్ళిపోయినాయి. అయినా అని మనుషులము కాబట్టి ఇంకా వేరే ఆధారం లేక అట్లనే ఉన్నాం. న్యాయం గురించి కోర్టుకు తిరగడం అనేది పిచ్చి. ఎవరైతే ధనవంతులు ఏదైతే ఇండస్ట్రియలిస్టులు ఉన్నారో వాళ్ళకి మట్టుకే న్యాయం జరుగుతుంది. వాళ్ళు ఎంత తప్పులు చేసినా అని వాళ్ళకి న్యాయం, మనకు న్యాయం దొరకదు. మేము గ్రహించినాం ఇది.
Thank you all for the patient watch. And in this special moment, I really want to give some tribute to Chidambaram sir, who has helped us. And I would request everyone to maintain 1 minute silence. Chidambaram sir was a very special part of our journey making this film and for the case brief. The amount of help he had given us has been immeasurable. And to speak a few words on his life, his personal sacrifices, I now call upon Gautam sir, who is Mr. Chidambaram's son, and who was also a part and parcel of our journey in making this film. Gautam sir, if you could just speak a few words.
Yeah. Hello. Good evening, everyone. It is an honor for me to be with you all at this moment. First of all, I want to congratulate the entire team for their excellent work on this burning issue in this region. It was a subject which you have chosen is very important, and it's a burning issue now, and it requires everyone's attention at this moment. It was a relentless fight from my father for almost 50 years, and even Dr. Kishan Rao also was a part of this fight. Initially, it was a lone fight by them. Later, many people, like-minded people, came along with them in this for this cause, and even people also many of these people got aware of the situation, and they also joined them in their fight. They could, I wouldn't say they have succeeded in bringing about a drastic change, but they could get many people aware on this issue, and it could bring about a hope among the people that one day this problem would be solved. So my father has left an objective ahead for us all to take it ahead. So I once again thank the entire team and also the people all involved in this program now. So let's continue this fight. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Gautam sir. Now, as we know, as we saw in the film, this case has started from the 1980s, and it's been going on for decades thereafter. We also know how, I mean, it was in the aftermath of the Bhopal gas tragedy and the pollution in Bichri, and there was a lot of industrial pollution happening all across the country. It is at that point that Patancheru pollution had gained prominence. So in that regard, I would like to talk about our next guest, Advocate MC Mehta, who has been a guiding light for all of us youngsters who got into this profession of environmental law. I'm very grateful for Mehta sir for having accepted our invitation for this event. As we all know, he has won single-handedly numerous landmark judgments from the Supreme Court, whether it be matters of industrial pollution, whether it's water pollution, vehicular pollution. And I mean, uh, as a law school student, we know there are a lot of MC Mehta versus Union of India cases that we have all had to study. And we are really grateful for his contribution to that. Mehta sir also got involved in the Patancheru case in the 1990s, and because of his interventions, a lot of important orders came from the Supreme Court in the 1990s, whether it be on compensation, whether it be on having a effluent treatment plant. So there have been a lot of interesting interventions as he got involved. So I would like to invite Mehta sir now to speak a few words on his thoughts, his experience, his thoughts on watching the film and his memories from those days. It'll be really great if you could enlighten us, sir. Thank you, sir.
I think I'm happy to know that the film has been made. This film, I think that it is going to give a shock to those who have some concern for the environment, people's life and health, and for the suffering people of this country. The situation, the people, those who were there here in this film, I think that they deserve a lot of commendations because they were the people behind this whole thing, a movement. As far as this movement is concerned, I feel that we have not won the battle, but it has only been triggered. And it is not only one, this Patancheru, there are many Patancherus in this country. Before that, if you, I would just share that in Bichri, near Udaipur, I took that case in 1989, and the same way that was the small industries, small 5 industries, and so they created havoc, and up to this time they could not rectify the environmental degradation, or they could not. The government of India failed miserably. The state governments, the Rajasthan government failed miserably, and the pollution control boards, they are on paper only. In this country, if you say that yes, the pollution control boards in name they are there, but their hands have been tied, and they have become voiceless. So that is most unfortunate that a agency which has only the sole responsibility to control pollution, and they have to enforce the laws. Whether there is a Central Pollution Control Board or the state pollution control boards, they have become toothless wonders. And they have the teeth, but where is that the teeth? So it means that they are toothless wonders. The teeth is, if they have the teeth, then they are there. They have to bite. They have to enforce the law. They have to see that the people of this country are Patancheru, those who are suffering, they have the first right. And so why the action has not been taken? I know that Dr. Kishan Rao, Purushottam Reddy, and so many other my friends, they were behind that. And every time, whenever I went over there, and not only that, late Honorable Justice P.N. Bhagwati and his wife, they visited this area. I accompanied them, and they were horrified. They said, they told me that, Mehta, you file some case, because how the people can suffer. And how, if this is the situation, he was so upset by seeing the situation that the people, they don't have water to drink. And it is at that time it was very hot weather, and then the people, the suffering, the animals dying, and all that. So the court, the one thing which was done, that the Supreme Court, and they said that yes, they should be provided drinking water and some medical facilities or whatever. But that is the Supreme Court or the courts in country, they can only show the path. Yes, the law is there. They have, it is that if the law is not being applied properly, then the court comes into the picture. The court once passes orders, then it is the role of the executive, the governments, the pollution control boards, that they should honestly they implement that judgment, that order of the court. They are not there to lie, to give a wrong picture in one way or the other to the court, because later on I went to there and asking of the Dr. Kishan Rao and Purushottam Reddy. The case was transferred to Chennai. Then I was a number of times I went over there. I all the time, whenever I used to see the faces of those officials, those who were there, I was very intrigued to see that why they are standing over here. If they are there with the industry, or they are with the people and the environment, they are being paid for keeping the life and health of the people and the animals intact. It is their duty, because for that these pollution control boards have been created. If I think that the time has come that the people of this country, they should say that either they are non-functional bodies right now. If you see that whether it is the Ganga, whether it is this case, Ganges case, you know, I'm fighting since 85, 84, and the Taj Mahal case or the other cases, whatever, I have seen that it is a chaos everywhere. Whether it is in Calcutta, all those industries were part of that case. The other in Mumbai, the whole of the country I have covered in one way or the other. But wherever I have gone, it was a relief to the people upon the court's orders, a temporary relief, frankly. The court gave a permanent relief, but it was not a permanent relief. When they were under pressure, the authorities were under pressure, they gave the medical reliefs, or they provided water through tankers, or for so many other ways they did, just to see that they can escape from the court action against them. But they were not concerned in real sense to save the people and protect the environment. And that is why, because there is too much political interference in every sphere. Many people, they come to me and they say, sir, we can't work. I said, why? Why you are not here? Whether it were in NGT, they meet me, whether in the court, they meet me, the high officials from the ministries, they say, sir, our mouth is shut. I said, then you leave the post. Why are you there? But then they keep quiet. Then the next, I see their faces, and then the next time when they are in the court standing there, they will try to avoid. But out of that crowd, some officials, they did provide me very vital information, which I could not have got. They have they were concerned, but they became the helpless before the authorities. They hire their whether they have political leadership or the executive leadership. or the whosoever was their boss, they could not resist those pressures. But they did. Number of times they provided me, they called me one day, one official from the Ministry of Environment called me around 11 in the night, and he said, "Sir, you told me, but I'm a very senior officer. I'm taking action, but I don't know to what extent I will succeed." I said, "You will be only transferred. If you are not, if you don't, whatever your dharma, whatever is your duty, true duty, you please do." He did that. And the next day, the person was changed. I pursued that case. Many orders were taken and all that. But the point is that I don't say that everywhere in the Environment Ministry or in the State Pollution Control Boards or the Central Pollution Control Board, there are good people also. So I don't take a brush and paint the whole picture. But it is behind them, there should be the people behind such honest people. And then the movements can go ahead. Otherwise, it is not possible. So there is a need for a long environmental fight for the protection of environment and for the protection of life and health of the people and the animal kingdom. What we have precious things in this country, but all those precious things are being destroyed systematically. Whether it is mining, whether it is in Gangaji, there is the mining taking place in the river itself. What will you do? That is the case. I feel so disappointed. But the other solution is there is no independent agency. So I always say that the pollution to control pollution control boards, to administer them also, there is a need for an independent like ombudsman or somebody which should be monitoring, and wherever the cases are, whether they are in the Supreme Court or in other high courts or in wherever the people's grievances are there, they should be addressed properly. And then so that the people should gain faith that whatever the law was, all these laws have been framed by the parliament. So what is the respect of those parliamentarians, those who passed these laws, and why they did that? In 1972, the Stockholm Conference was there. Then after that, I'm leave behind. But during British time and all that, only one section 133 CRPC. You see that how with that section the whole administration was working. And then in Mumbai there was a Bombay, that the Smoke Act and all that. But the rivers were clean, everything was fine, because there was the system working and the people were afraid. The polluters were not in a position to defy the law. That is what spirit should be. I don't say that since we were slave and we should go into that period. No. But why our Indians, when they go out, they become shining stars. They do so many wonderful things. And their name is so high in every sphere. But those same Indians, when they come over there, they become helpless. They in private, they tell me, "Sir, what is why I came over here? I had long dreams, that okay, I will go do this, but it is impossible to do, because there is too much bureaucracy which is working. There are other so many things which is happening, and so it gives a pain that if the people are there, honest people are also there. It is not that there is we don't have. There are the people with courage. One is the honesty. The honesty is only to one person only. But if that person has a courage, he can come out. Unfortunately, we only feel every day in the evening or in the morning when some people, they meet me, they say, sir, the air is so polluted in Delhi. I said, so why are you here then? Why don't you protest? You know the stubble burning and all these cases, the vehicular pollution and all these cases are mine. What is happening? But then they keep quiet. I said, you are responsible. But one person, one IAS officer, he came to me one day and he said, sir, I have come over here, very urgent thing. I said, what is that? He said, my son is having a breathing problem. I said, your son? I said, what happened? He said, no, I diagnosed. I went to the doctor and the doctor said that he is suffering from air pollution. And you save him. So now I realized that there is a pollution. I said, you have realized today when your son has become a victim? Now today he realized that day. I said, it was wrong. You should have realized long back that there are other children also, those who suffer the same way. But once you were the officer over there, you were not ready to take action. You weren't ready to do that, that okay, it should be rectified. So what in short, my whole concern is that unless there's a people's movement in this country, a people's movement for environment, life, health of the people, for the protection, for all living species, even if we as a human beings are saved, alone we can't survive. We are dependent. We are dependent on other living beings, whether it's a wildlife, whether it is anything, whatever you name, you are dependent directly or indirectly. So my only concern is that, yes, this film which has been made, I am very happy. And if this shakes some people, in the system, in the administration, or in the pollution control boards, or of the state pollution control of that place, in the Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh or Telugu or wherever, it is all, it is in India, everywhere, from Jammu and Kashmir down to everywhere, I have seen that this is serious situation, whether it's on waterfront or air or even on these pesticides. You can see that how much pesticides we take inside in one way or the other. So many other things. So it is the question of life and health. Life is the most important. And if health is there, then only we can enjoy a life. Otherwise, we can't. Even if you are a multi-millionaire person, what are you going to do? Your son is sick. The person, he came to me and he said, my son is sick. He's a big person. And I said, why your son is sick? Now, in Delhi also, in the same way, many people, they come to me, my son is sick. My daughter is sick. This is happening. I said, you are responsible. How much you have contributed to protect the environment? If you have failed, now your son or your daughter or any relation he is admitted in the hospital. So my only concern is that please, such films, and more such films should be made, and so that they should shake the conscience. If they have, our political leadership, they don't have, it is missing. And if some are there, but they feel we are helpless, we can't do anything. So for what, so only it is the people's, it is what if every household will have a cancer. You can see the cancer rate in this country.
So if I could ask you to conclude.
Yes. So my concern is that this is what, is the situation. And we all, I congratulate the filmmakers and then those who funded and helped in making this film. It is really wonderful. And to my friends, other friends, those who are in the battlefield. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your wise words. And it's indeed true. Unless the people realize, or unless the agencies, the implementing agencies realize that they have a role to play, and they don't say that, oh, it's not my problem, it's the problem for tomorrow, we are just endangering our future generation. And that's a lesson that we can take from this. This is generations of pollution. So it will take another generation, but we need to start acting now. Yes, sir. Thank you for that, sir. Now, I would like to invite our next guest, Dr. Narasimha Donti Reddy. Reddy sir has helped us immensely in conducting our field exercise, connecting us with all the right people. As you know, this case has been going on for so long. It has a very checkered history. So it was very difficult for us to track all the players, all the people, activists who were involved in this case from the 1980s. And Reddy sir helped us navigate through that system. And he has been a passionate campaigner on environmental and developmental issues. He also has written a lot of books and on different subjects in regional, national, and international publications. So I would invite Reddy sir now to please speak a few words on your thoughts on the film and your experience in general.
Thank you, Shama. I think I'll join Gautam and MC Mehtaji in congratulating the team for bringing out a very sharp documentary on Patancheru. This is the second documentary, actually, I mean, not from Vidhi. We did a documentary in 1990. One of my friends, Sunil Umrao, who is now head of the media communication department in University of Allahabad, he did that documentary long back. Between that documentary and this documentary, I think we can see the sharp focus on legal solutions or legal aspects of the case. And I think with this documentary has successfully brought those dimensions. I'll also add a few more points because of time constraint, I may not be able to speak more. One point I would like to bring out is polluter pays principle. I think that's a legal document, a legal principle which has been highlighted but never applied everywhere and fully. So I think, to be fair to the legal process, it was good until about 15 years. If I look at my experience from 1987, I think there was a fairly responsive legal system until about 2005. But later on, I think related to the larger changes brought in by World Trade Organization and other things, this decade, in fact, is negating completely the polluter pays principle. And I think now we are seeing a trend where polluter gets paid principle. If you look at recent after COVID pandemic, Telangana, which has the highest number of polluting industries, is now inviting more industries. So pharma companies in the last 6 months have tripled or increased their profits 10 times, and now they are on an expansionist mode. And the same district, Medak district, where this serious pollution we have seen, is now getting more units. And both central and state governments use the logic of of China has abundant production of active pharma ingredients. So we require those ingredients, and so Telangana is the destination. So that's where Hyderabad Pharma City is being justified, where 1,000 plus industries are clustered in an area of 19,000 hectares. And again, a new area is going to be polluted. Now here, I think we also need to look at the other sections of society which have abandoned the victims of pollution. Medical profession, you can see in the last 30 years, even though Patancheru has been highlighted, even though Supreme Court order also specifically mentions, no medical studies have been done. Only local doctors like Dr. Kishan Rao and a few research scholars from other countries. None of the institutions which are mandated to work on health have done any study. So with the result, today we are talking of cancer, we are talking of various ailments caused by high antibiotic presence in the groundwater and the blood of the local people. There's no assessment. So when we go to Supreme Court or when we go to courts, I think this is a big gap which is with the people, because today that cases, the conflict or the arguments which go in the courts, people are asked to provide evidence. I think that's a fundamental serious shift we are seeing today. Any complainant, whether it is a villager or a group of villagers, they are asked to come up with the evidence and not, just write a complaint. So increasingly, as MC Mehtaji has pointed out clearly, we are seeing Pollution Control Board officials increasingly turning towards the complainants as if they are the representatives of the industry, and started asking questions on the complainant themselves. So, in certain, even recently, after 35 years, I recently went to Pollution Control Board on a pharma issue, and I was also questioned by the officials there. So the point is, even though Environment Protection Act and the various cases and the entire notifications empower try to empower people, ultimately they are disempowered by the Pollution Control Board, and on the simple basis that evidence has to be provided. Now that's where they try to nullify all the protests or complaints which are coming about. Now, third issue I think I'll try to bring about is, what about the entire debate, with development and environment. Today, you are seeing Hyderabad is exporting almost 2/3 of Indian pharma export. So the thousands of rupees, crores are being made by the companies. So they are converting local natural resources into profits, and these profits, are remaining with a few people. So if you see in the last 35 years, I can name 10 companies which have become multinational just by bypassing all their extra environmental costs and polluting local water, local air, ambient air, and the local groundwater. All resources have been polluted and they made money. And even today, the same logic is being pushed by our economists and economic planners. So I think we need to also bring this into question, because this discussion gets reflected in the courts as well. So courts, they are shying away from taking serious action against industries just because they say they contribute a few dollars to export economy, and a few employees are a few people are employed. So this logic, I think, continues to hold the powers of the courts as well. So I think we need to debate this as well, and we need to bring about not just a polluter-based principle, but a precautionary principle as well, because they go together. It's not isolated. We have experience in Patancheru, we have experience in Jinnaram, we have experience in several villages around Patancheru. Because when we say Patancheru, it's not just one area. I think for most of your listeners, it means a region. It's not just one area. I can reel out a number of villages names. That was what I used to do as a student when I used to take media people to Patancheru when MC Mehtaji, Kishan Rao, Professor Purushottam Reddy, Chidambaram, all of them were there. So my point is this area is now again and again being misused to convert natural resources into profits. I think this single line has to be, it has to bring in precautionary principle so that we can't add more units. At least, take a pollution is there, but why are you not applying precautionary principle? Because we know these companies can pollute. So that's where, when we are opposing Hyderabad Pharma City, which is again on the east side of Hyderabad, this Patancheru is on the west side. And if you look at both the situations, we wonder, everyone who listens to the whatever is happening in the name of Hyderabad Pharma City, they'll ask how is it happening? It's happening because we are not applying precautionary principle. And precautionary is not it's a vague term. It's based on experience. So precautionary principle, polluter-based principle, I think these need to be applied, and legal process, legal system, as Professor Purushottam Reddy pointed out in the documentary, a mechanism of implementation has to be brought about, because orders are coming out, but orders are not being implemented, and courts are just simply shrugging their responsibility. So I think we need to insist on such a mechanism. So there are many aspects, but I think due to shortage of time, I'll stop here. Thank you, VD team, for all this work.
Thank you, Reddy sir, for your insightful comments, especially on the application of these principles, the polluter pays and the precautionary principle. The way these principles have been applied by the courts there's a lot of definition and standardization that is now required, because every time the courts simply, we can't blame the courts, but there has to be some kind of standardization, some kind of definition in law. So this is something that the executive should probably take up. So there are some improvements to be made in the way courts use these principles. And for that, thank you for those comments, Dr. Reddy. So now next, I would like to invite, so as we all know that while the pollution in Patancheru in the beginning was limited to Patancheru, because of its nature, because of the nature of water, it has now spread out all across that region. Like, it has expanded in its scope, and it's affecting even the residents of Hyderabad. Like, the drinking water quality of the entire region has been affected due to not just this pollution, but industrial and sewage waste and all kinds of pollution. So in this regard, I would like to invite Dr. Lubna Sarwat to hear her thoughts Lubna ma'am is a well-being economist and a socio-political environmental activist. She stood for recent the by-elections, and she also stood for the 2019 elections. She strives to blend her academic and research know-how as a well-being economist with her on-field grassroots experience as a social activist, and her endeavor is to reach with justice, equitability, and peace. So, in this regard, when you talk about justice and peace, and in an urban space, Dr. Lubna, like, what are your thoughts, and how do you think that it should play out?
Thanks to Vidhi, and of course with deep respects for late Chidambaram Garu, with whom Save Our Urban Lakes has a very close association, and thanks also to Mehtaji, profound respects for him, and to my co-panelist Dr. Reddy Garu. I would like to bring some more aspects here to the enlightened discussion, both from Vidhi and also from Mehtaji and Dhunti Garu. So apart from this Patancheru, if we look at the Nacharam Industrial Development Area of Hyderabad, there the residents actually in HMT Nagar and other areas, right in the heart of the GHMC, Hyderabad Metro City, we have the bore wells giving such colored and polluted waters, because there is an industrial development area there too, and they too we have all the lakes full of frothy water. So it across the Musi River in the north and the south basin, where we have dotted industrial development areas, all these have also pharma within them, and we see in every lake and across the Musi Nadi, we see these frothy pollutants, which are not exactly sewage, according to even the retired chief scientist Dr. Babura Garu, or the environmentalist former UNEP consultant Sagardhara Garu. All these we are consulting everybody. I mean, they confirm that it is not. Even yesterday's news, where a retired military personnel from Yapra Lake, he pointed out to us the dead fish. This as early as yesterday, that the situations are so grave, and there is no. The pathetic part is that there is no addressing or attention from the government towards this. That is the sad part of it. And I would like to definitely draw here one attention of the Supreme Court Monitoring Committee, which was formed during these pharma pollution cases being run in the Supreme Court. This Supreme Court Monitoring Committee, I used their particular observation in my Hussain Sagar pollution case running now in NGT Chennai. So they were particular and very apt in highlighting that the every pollutant, whether it is sewage or industry, must be handled in its vicinity. So this is the catch point. So why does it have to travel through a 24-kilometer pipe right from the Manjira Basin to the Krishna Basin? That is the question that has to be addressed. Why is it traveling when the committee itself is telling that it should be handled in the vicinity? So we have been at various levels, right from union government when Venkaiah ji was the MoUD minister. From then onwards, we have been repeatedly telling them that this particular handling in the vicinity, handling it ward-wise, handling it right where it is the pollution, whether it is solid or liquid by industry or by sewage, has to be handled in the vicinity. Reuse there. The Supreme Court Monitoring Committee also tells that it has to be reused. When it can be reused, why is it traveling down the pipes and going to some other basin and being let out into another STP from the common effluent treatment plant of Patancheru on GD Metla? Why does it have to be traveled if it has been treated properly, and if it is zero ZLD? Then what is it that is traveling through the 24 kilometers pipe through the Hussain Sagar or into the Hussain Sagar and into the Amberpet STP? So the point is that things are kept very ambiguous, kept very much fuzzy, so that the data is not accessible, data not in public domain, and you have to struggle to reach them to get the data. Data is actually the base upon which we become informed. So we are not allowed to be informed. The Section 4 of RTI Act, which tells that more and more information from the governmental agencies must be in the public domain. This is a lack of all these. So yes, we too had been to that entire Patancheru belt, Hama belt, and we have seen that outside the Ramki hazardous treatment plant, outside the plant itself, where Chidambaram Garu and others were with us, and the French TV also had covered this. We saw that the Ramki hazardous treatment plant is letting out outside its compound wall. How ironical. So this is something that I want to highlight. And another thing that bothers me regarding the Supreme Court judgments is that it's about something that penalizing the polluter. I don't somehow strongly believe in that, because yes, okay, I will pay, I will pollute and I will pay. So is it acceptable to us? It is not acceptable. So I don't see the strength of force in the Supreme Court orders that tells the agencies, the governmental agencies and the industries, that beware, no such thing. If such thing happens, this is what is going to happen, and we want this to be curtailed in the initial stage itself. Like for example, the Bangladesh has a green banking policy. So because all these industries are not out of their own capital, it's about the loan component that comes to them. It's about the huge Nordia investment that is coming to them. The Nordia investment has also worked on this aspect. They're all investing. There's no responsible investment. So the investment firms, the banks, where is the green banking policy? Bangladesh has brought in one. So we have to think about these terms, where how do we curtail the pollution from happening itself? So this is something that bothers me. And another point that I want the attention of all the citizens. See, hereafter, I think I'll stop telling that the agencies or the public representatives. It is the citizens who have to be more aware. So citizens have also got to know that the industry, the pharma industry, that's a multi-billion dollar industry. What about the prevention industry? We don't hear of such prevention industry. Prevention, not about the cure, but how do you prevent people from becoming sick? To immunity boosting. Where is the immunity boosting? Are they having the required levels of vitamin D that will stop the disease? Are they having proper aerated houses, proper drinking water? Are they able to wash their hands? Where is water? So these are the points. And when the groundwater itself, St. Pius College of Nacharam also had found out the groundwater at various places within the GHMC area, right from Kapra to Hussain Sagar to Nacharam, everywhere, the groundwater itself is polluted, having zinc, lead, and other things. That even tested the bloods of these people in these localities where the groundwater is severely contaminated due to industry. They found lead in their blood, and they compared it with people in other areas where the blood did not have any such quantities, any such findings. So the prevention of disease for a person, when that is strengthened from the government itself, where is the necessity of the pharma industry to be promoted at all is my question. And now coming down to another important point, in 2017, we conducted around 2 roundtables to stop the pharmacity. We even opened a Facebook page where say no to pharmacity. And during that time, we even approached the US FDA. US FDA has been repeatedly, serving warrants, serving notices, or serving forms on them. So we asked the US FDA, are you this something known as GMP, good manufacturing practices, followed across the globe? So we questioned the US FDA, what are the components of your GMP? If you say that you are serving the notices to these big pharma, multi-billion pharma companies who are supplying the medicine to your places, so you're worried. So when you're worried, are your GMPs, good manufacturing practices, containing the components that will talk about that this multi-billion company should even not harm the locality in which it is operating? They did reply back, and they told that the GMP does not carry any such component, and they are just worried about inside the unit, inside the pharma industry unit, whether the component, the active pharma ingredient, or the final product that is coming out, is it safe enough for the people over there where this medicine travels to, giving just revenue here to the government and to the private companies, and creating ill health both to the environment, to the ground, to the air, to the people. So this is what should shock the common people, that the companies here, neither the local pollution control board and the government is worried about the pollution that is creating, by using the natural resources from here, and nor is the US FDA that comes here and serves notices on them, even they are not worried. This is as per on record, as per their reply. So we have to take multiple sources of help. Our government is not responding, the people are less informed, the private companies are not concerned. Then what about the investment companies? When me and Captain Ramarao faced the Norgia investment, we actually questioned them. So you are coming and looking at all this. What further? Are you going to stop funding to them? They came up with something known as responsible banking. Very good. Responsible investment. Very good. But what about that? Are we seeing some reality or some effect or impact of that on the ground? These are our questions, and we want all the citizens to know more about this. It's the private companies and the governments know about this. That's why they're shying away. They are shying away stalwarts like Mehta ji. So the people have to be more and more informed, and I'm worried that the people are less and less informed. Now, another important point is that we recently, as recent as July 2020, with Dr. Babu Rao, our retired chief scientist from CCMB, we all questioned the government along with Doldi ji. We questioned the government that when you are going in for the HPC Hyderabad Pharma City, please answer us these questions. With the pharma belt across the Hyderabad, and we being the most of the product producers, a major producer of API and the finished product in India, and giving so much of revenue back to the government, both at the union level and the state level. What is the health index? Are we on the top of the health index of the country? This was our question to the government, to the MOD minister. Are we on the top of the health index? Did we have the perfect health? That we are talking about exporting medicines everywhere and establishing more and more pharma industries. They didn't give us any answer about that. So, and what about the existing pharma belt that has caused irreversible damage to all the natural resources, including the ground? We asked them, what are we doing about the irreversible damage that has happened? Have you restored it? Have you restored? Have you deposited lump sum of about 1,500, 30,000, 50,000 crores? Because it's irreversible. So that money is being used for restoration. I mean, we heard people talking about their health, the pregnancies, the age. I mean, who should address all this? So these are the questions we actually posed to them. And one very, very critical point, our late Rajamani ji, the respected person, and Sagar Dhara, and Professor B.C. Reddy, they were all a part of the Supreme Court committee on Hussain Sagar. They have brought out an excellent report in 2005. But before that itself, they had actually resigned from some committee appointed by the government, and because they stated some critical points. They said that it is the impacted who must be asked. When you're doing an environmental impact assessment, the impacted should be brought in there. But even in all the building and construction mega projects that are happening across the Hyderabad, north, west, south, central, everywhere, the going to be impacted are not assessed at all. It is a symbolic. If you look at the EIA reports, it is very symbolic, just filling in some columns. Even the secretariat that is coming right inside the eco-sensitive zone of Hussain Sagar, a symbolic and fraudulent report has been submitted. I call it fraudulent because it doesn't come under the 8B, but it comes under category, not category B, but it comes under category A1 that entails public hearing, and that has been overridden by the Telangana State Environment Impact and Assessment. How will people know about all these? This is my worry. I know if people know all this, they will actually react. They will leave away all their political differences. I know people are very innocent at heart. They need information. So these are some of the worries, and the very important point about the Hyderabad Pharma City. If you look at the EPTRI report, it doesn't say anything about the wildlife present and the impact on the wildlife. But if you look at the recent media reports, widely it came in the print media as well, and leading newspapers, authentic newspapers, they talked about the leopards moving around in the Yacharam and other villages, and in those mandals. But if leopards, the wildlife has to be there, that means it indicates a very prominent presence of wildlife there, which is not been documented by the EPTRI. And even Dr. Barbara had even, was citing another report by an NGO that documented all the wildlife there. No, EPTRI and the MOFS, they have to consider this report. The government of Telangana has to consider these reports. They have to answer properly. They have to convince people, which they can't, because these are the facts, these are the truths. So with these things, I would really like to tell that it is not about the health. The pharma industry here is not about the health and the concerns. And also, I want to draw another important point. When we are investing so much in the HPC and other things, I would really want to ask, what is the role of Ayush? Ayush ministry, there's a separate ministry, and Ayush, they're in every governmental hospital and also in the other governmental health agencies, health schemes. So what is the role of Ayush here? Why are we telling so much about the allopathic medicine? HPC is all about the allopathy medicine. So what is the role of this? Are we not promoting this? What is their contribution in the health index, improving the health index of India? Has that been assessed, or is it just symbolic? The Unani, the yoga, the Ayush, all the Ayurvedic, Siddha, Homeo. What is the role of all this? Why are we promoting HPC, Hyderabad Pharmacity on such a scale? Why are we not talking about all these? This is something that I want to highlight. As I'm just concluding, Shyama, within just a few minutes. So this is what I want to tell, that the informed approval, and we also asked the government, we put in public domain, the informed approval taken from the impacted, both from the governance, local governance level. We asked government to submit all these, so that we want to tell that we want to work in collaboration with the government for the health of the Telangana, for the health of the India, for the health of the globe. We are of course bothered about everybody's health, but not at the cost of what's happening here. So I really want to tell that it's about the prevention also. The prevention has to happen. We must see what is being done for the prevention. And when it comes to the prevention, yes, the health, the diet is very important. So I want to tell that as much as the economics and environment are so intricately intrigued, so interconnected, so much is the health index that the pharma industry can give, both to the biodiversity, to the humans, and protect of the environment. The last sentence is, both the economy and the health, everything depends on the environment. Once we have realized that every industry is seeking from the earth, seeking from the air, seeking from the water, without these, they cannot generate anything, the industry cannot run. Then how is it that they can just destroy it? They are given a license to destroy it. What about the replenishing it? You can only use the natural resources and then replenish it. Show us a formula before itself how you're replenishing it. And there is no question about destroying the environment by any industry, whatever. Thanks so much to Vidhi.
Thank you, Lubna ma'am. That was again very insightful, especially the innovative ways. These aren't innovative, these are practiced all across the developed worlds. The responsibility, the corporate environmental responsibility that should be maintained by these industries, that should be mandated on these industries, especially when it comes to investment. And yes, like you rightly pointed out, there is now more importance on a new pharma city coming elsewhere in the state. And when there is this area of Telangana almost completely destroyed, you are now trying to destroy another very niche and very rich area. So in that regard, where is responsible investment? And that's most important. It's granted, economics is important, development is important, but it is side by side with health and environment of the people. So I'm very grateful to your comments, ma'am. Those have been very insightful and helpful. So in this endeavor, like I mentioned, there were a lot of activists and there were a lot of ground level support that we received in our one year long project. And we were not able, we would have loved to invite a lot of more speakers to share their years and decades of experience. We could not do that. And we are also missing Chidambaram sir greatly. I would invite Shilpa Krishna. She's a research scholar who helped us out in this endeavor, and share her thoughts on the people who have been part of this experience and the activists who have been part of this experience. Over to you, Shilpa.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Shama, and congratulations to your team for bringing out this documentary. Regarding Chidambaram, sir, it's a great loss and very sad and disheartening to come to terms that he's not with us anymore. But I'm sure he will live in our memories and his work. And his enthusiasm and clear thinking were great assets, and you could always count on him to speak up. He would guide any researchers who would visit the place, and many teams that would come up, be it foreign team or Indian team, and anybody who wanted to research or survey upon on pollution impacted areas, he was always there to help. He believed in filing RTIs, and he used that as a weapon or a tool to file petitions, and he was a strong fan of RTIs. A fitting tribute to him would be to carry forward and fight for the cause that he had filed, the pending cases and all that. And I want to share an incident with you all. At the beginning of my research, I had listed out some of my key respondents, and I first met Professor Purushottam Reddy sir, and then it snowballed to other contacts in the field. After I met him and discussed about my work, he accompanied me from his residence, which is around 60 kilometers to Patancheru, and introduced me to Dr. Kishan Rao and Chidambaram sir at their respective residences. Both Dr. Kishan Rao sir and Chidambaram sir were there to help me, and many a times they would even accompany me to the field and help me to collect data. The reason why I shared this is to tell you that Purushottam sir could have just called or referred, and and both Dr. Kishan Rao sir and Chidambaram sir could have just given me contacts. But they chose to come, and they always said that they believe that this generation would be their torchbearers, and we could save and do our best to save the environment. And what inspires me always when I see these activists is their optimism and hope that there will be a change in spite of the challenges and hurdles they face. Yes, Shama, that's it.
Thank you, Shilpa. And yes, that was the kind of support that we also received, and he was very welcoming, and so was Kishan Rao sir. The kind of support that, and it's true that like they were having some health issues when we met them, but despite that, they took all the time and effort to be a part of this. Now, I think we can now move on to a moderated discussion. Like we're just going to take very few questions because there's a paucity of time. In this regard, I would like to pose a question to Mehta sir first, if sir is available. Otherwise, all right. Otherwise, Lubna ma'am, I'll pose a question to you. This is from Aviral Singh, and this person has asked, what are country citizens going to do to help the people who are being affected? Like, what is the role of a citizen in this climate? How can they contribute?
There is a lot that citizens can do. And the first thing is that I keep telling citizens that raising representations to the right authority who is responsible to do that. That is the first step, finding out who is the responsible authority, because in our country, you don't even have, in our state, especially, or in the country, we don't have the names of the authorities on the scene where things are happening, right in front of the company. If there's a company and it's a red category company, so there itself you should have those contact details on who should be approached, like a vigil committee being formed. So all these, I would definitely tell the citizens that if you find something red herring, then you immediately form a small team there, and then you look into your vicinity. And even when it comes to water bodies also, I keep telling people that you look for water body in your vicinity and be the watchdog for that, and then approach the proper authority who is responsible for its maintenance, for its governance. So that is the first step that they should do. And definitely citizens, there is a lot, and today I'm telling, I believe in empowering the citizen. I mean, there's nothing else to do with the governance or the public representatives who are okay with all this. It's a citizen who is at the heart of all this, and the citizen must raise a representation and must be ready to be vocal about it.
Thank you, ma'am. Well said. And citizens really play a very key role in this regard. Narasimha sir, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, just a few sentences. I think whenever the problem arose in each of the villages which you are talking about in this region, there have been youngsters who have worked, learned and worked on this issue. So I think a few names are there in this documentary. Pradeep, Gautam, and many other names are there. I think that's a key when we are talking of a citizen's involvement. Basically, I think we need to start learning what is happening around us. That sense of belongingness, once it is there, I think that will spur the citizens to work on the issues which are surrounding in their area. Once we decide that, people like educated or youngsters, professionals, lawyers, doctors who are elsewhere, located elsewhere, I think they should start working with these local activists because they require a lot of support in many other ways. Even though they are there and they do tremendous sacrifice. If you look at each of these places all around Hyderabad, many of them have been making a lot of sacrifice and risky activism. So I think all other citizens who are located elsewhere should start supporting these local activists so that they get empowered and then some action can happen on that.
Thank you, sir. Sir, and there's a follow-up question from Paritosh Tyagi, sir, to Dr. Reddy. See, there are three major ways to protect the environment: prevention, abatement, and control. Apparently, only regulatory mechanism is dependent on to control this pollution. What about having an emphasis on prevention and abatement?
Exactly, that was my point as well. With this new expansion which is happening and the Hyderabad Pharma City proposal, we are questioning this entire paradigm of establishing a pharma company merely to export and gain some foreign exchange. So that is happening, but unfortunately, what we see, and I think Paritosh Tyagiji has a lot of experience in that. Public policies are not discussing this. Lubna has referred to that in detail. We are not looking at it in a public policy mode and see how we can prevent and take precaution against repetition of this pollution. So I think we need to engage with NITI Aayog, we need to engage with the Department of Pharmaceuticals, we need to engage with the this production linked incentive scheme which was introduced recently by the government post corona, because of this pandemic. So I think we need to engage with that process, rightly said, and question, do we need this at all? Because China has stopped APIs merely because it is polluting and its economy is not improving because of that. So we are not learning from that. We should start learning from that.
Thank you, sir. No, this is true. Like, there's a lot of learning here, and I suppose it's not fair to put all the blame just on the courts and on the executive agencies. There is more requirement for coordinated efforts from all stakeholders, including there's a responsibility on each one of us and the government, the politically appointed entities. Everyone is responsible for the mess that we are right now in, and only we can get us out of this mess. So now that we come to this close, I would request Devatyu Sinha, my colleague, and senior research fellow, to come and give a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Shama. First of all, we would like to thank Mr. Chidambaram and express our condolences to his family and friends. Without him, this documentary film could not have been completed. And when we were there for the shooting, he went all along with the film crew to all the sites, showing out all the particular sites. And a special thanks to Professor Purushottam Reddy, who has welcomed us so warmly and gave his precious time and insight into the history of the whole movement of Patancheru. We are also grateful to Dr. Kishan Rao, who, despite his health issues, agreed on becoming part of this documentary. He was supposed to join today, but he could not make it, unfortunately, due to some medical reasons. We are really thankful to Professor Vijay Gudavarti, Dr. Narasimha Rao, Dr. Babu Rao, Captain Rama Rao, Dr. Lubna Sarwat, Bhatti Shankar, and Shilpa for the help and input which brought clarity in our minds and have made a tremendous difference in the final outcome of the film. We would also like to acknowledge the support from residents of the villages near the industrial areas of Patancheru and Bolaram, especially Ashwak, Gautam, Prabhakar, Srisailam, Pradeep, and Rajkumar, for showing us the polluted sites, helping us understand the ground realities, and contributing to our research. And this case, we all know, is not only one of the longest cases we have observed, but it had also several petitions and number of orders. And initial stages, we were quite stressed due to the complicated nature of this case. And our sincere gratitude to the lawyers involved in this case, including Mr. Mehta, Advocate Nirup Reddy, Advocate Tanvi Suresh, Advocate Srinidhi Srinivasan, and Katyani for their time sharing documents and helping us understand the legal history of this case. And we are also quite fortunate enough to be guided and helped by one of the leading environment filmmaking firm, Riverbank Studios, as a collaborator, especially Gautam Pandey, Doel Trivedi, and their team, including Gautam Arora, Siddhant Chawla, Arti Sharma, and Ranjit. Thank you all for your efforts and helping us produce this movie. We are grateful to our funders, Tata Education and Development Trust and Universal Comfort Products Limited, for their financial support. And I would also like to congratulate the environment team at Vidhi and all of our colleagues. I would personally like to thank you, Shama, for moderating this session so well in an engaging way and also making sure we complete the event within time. I would also like to appreciate Isha Rana for writing the case brief on the issue, the link which has been shared during this event. And on the behalf of the environment team, I would also like to thank Vidhi's research director, Argo Sengupta, and Vidhi's co-founder, Dhoni Mehta, for her continuous encouragement and support to this project. With this, I conclude my vote of thanks. I thank the esteemed panel once again for taking out time today, especially Mr. Mehta, who is in remote area of Uttarakhand with very bad network, but still he managed to join us today. Thank you, Lubna and Dr. Narasimha Reddy, for sharing your precious time, especially when this GHMC elections are going on in Hyderabad. And thank you to all our guests. We are really privileged by your presence. And my apologies, I could not take everyone's name here as the list is very long. And we wish we could have engaged more people in this event, and we plan to do more such screenings of this movie in future. This film is now also available on YouTube channel, the link which you have got in the chat box. And once the COVID improves, which we hope in a few months it will improve, we definitely look forward to a proper screening in Hyderabad and meet you guys again. And thank you everyone who joined today for this premiere and making this event a successful one. Hope to see you at the screening of our next film in the series, about which we will announce very soon. Follow us on Twitter as Vidhi_India for more updates. Please take care, stay safe, stay home. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.